What's up, guys? Today we're going to cover some weapon damage. So before we get started, look at your stats. I have a 6th in strength, one hand and two hand, and each one's going to give a bonus. And so I'm sitting at about 42% increased damage, whether I use a one hand or a two hand. To swing your sword, you're going to click the mouse, of course, and if you move your mouse slightly down, up, left, or right, you can change your swing. So by moving it slightly left or right, you'll do a sideways swing. By moving it down, you'll do a stabbing, piercing motion. And by moving it slightly up, you'll do an overhead smash. So first, let's test the basic tier 1 bow and arrows. I'm going to shoot this guy directly in the chest, and it's doing 25 damage. So now I'm going to switch to the iron arrows from tier 3. And let's see the difference. It's going to hit for 67 this time. So a lot more damage from the higher tier arrows. So let's switch to the tier 2 bow with the tier 1 arrows, and it's going to hit for the same 25. So switch to the iron arrows, and we're going to hit again for the same 67. Try the bronze arrows out, and that's going to hit for 46. So looking at your arrows, you can see they're listed at 38, 62, and 85 damage. But what we actually saw was 25, 46, and 57 damage, about 33% damage reduction from the armor. So with the bronze arrow, I hit no armor 61, low tier 1 armor 52, higher tier 1 armor 46, and against tier 3 armor, I only hit for 4 damage. So what's the difference in bows? They don't change your damage as you go up in tier. All they do is change arrow speed and draw speed. So watch this. 1/1000. That's the draw speed of the tier 1. 1/1000. Now let's switch to the tier 2. 1/1002. Slightly higher. 1/1002. So you can see it's a slight, noticeable difference, but it's only a fraction of a second. So you can see the draw speed is going to go from 40 to 46, and it'll go back down in tier 3 to 38. But it's not a huge difference for really something you need to worry about. So next we're going to try out the tier 1 mace and warhammer. These both do blunt damage. So I'm going to hit them with the club, and that's going to hit for 15 damage. I'm going to switch to the warhammer, and that does 33 damage. So pretty good increase in damage for tier 1 weapons. That's listed at 18 and 31, so we're hitting close to the listed value on those two. Next we'll switch to the sturdy warhammer and the morning star. These are tier 2 weapons. So with the sturdy warhammer, we're going to hit for 52, and then that's listed at 47, pretty close. So then we'll switch to the morning star, and that's going to hit for 63, and you can see it's listed at 54. So those are both doing more damage above the listed value compared to the tier 1. So if we look at these, you can see that it listed as 47 and 54, but as I said, we were doing a 54 and 63 damage number, which is about, in both cases, 15% increased damage. Now if you take into account our 42% damage bonus, we should be doing 67 and 77, which means we lost 13 damage, or about 20% damage, due to the enemy's armor reduction. Okay, so switching to the two-hand mace, this is from tier 3. See, we did 98 damage, 90 damage. That's swinging from left to right, and it's listed at 80. Now let's swing from right to left. Wait, 65, 51. These numbers are way lower. 74 and 53. So we're going to come back to that. 91 if we switch back to the other side. So we'll come back to that later. Moving on to the swords, we got the broadsword, which is tier 2, and we've got the longsword, fine longsword, which is tier 3. So stabbing damage from the longsword, you can see 41, 52, 47. It's not hitting that hard compared to the 64 that it's listed at. So now let's do some cutting motions, sideways cutting motions. 80 damage from one side, but 66 from the other side. So again, we're seeing a discrepancy from one side to the other. 74 from that side, 81 from the other side. So that's a little odd, but we'll talk about that later as well. You can see 69 is what the listed damage was. The broadsword is listed at 36, and it's hitting for 38, so pretty close to the actual listed value. Piercing-wise, it only hits for 5, which is almost nothing. So it's listed at 16 for piercing. Now, if we look at all these numbers, they're kind of all over the place. The broadsword, 38, 5 piercing, pretty close on the cutting. Piercing's really low. And then you can see we got 90 to 98, on the mace, but 51 to 74 range coming from the other side. And you can see the longsword too. Big discrepancy there. So let's look at the mace first. It hit between 90 and 98, which means it did between 13 and 23% more damage than listed, which is 80. You expect to do 114 damage with your 42% damage bonus. So that means we lost between 16 and 24 damage, 14 to 21% damage off the expected amount due to armor. Looking at the sword, we did 80, 81, so about the same. 16% more damage than listed of 69. You expect to do 98, so we lost 18% off the expected amount. And piercing damage, you see, is crazy. We expect to do 91 by the same formula, but we only did 40 to 50, which means we had a huge loss. 51% damage loss, 28% off the listed amount. So piercing damage is just no good. And you also saw that with the arrows as well, which do piercing damage. So let's do a little bit more testing of that discrepancy. And this time I'm going against a guy that has no armor, at least not on top. So we hit with an overhead hit for 100, 54 on the thrust, 54 again, 92 on the overhead hit. So our damage went up on the cutting 100 from 80, so that's 45% over listed instead of the 16%. So you can see a big damage increase due to no armor up top, but our piercing was roughly the same. That's very interesting to me. So if you slow it down, my question, am I piercing him in the gut or am I piercing him in the pants? And it's hard to see, but I imagine if he has no armor and I'm hitting him up top, it has to do the listed damage at least, right? So doing some more sideways stuff, I'm hitting from 100 from that side, but wait, only 76 from that side, and he has no armor on, so what the hell's going on? Or there's a 95, that's much better, 77 again, 72. So something's going on from swinging one side to the other. If you look here, I might have actually swung through his pants. And if you slow it down and look from the other way, it's a little bit more flat, and I might have cut through his chest. So if you swing, you notice not only does it go lower, but there's a big upward motion from one side, and it's a lot more flat from the other side. So my suspicion is you're hitting him in the pants from one side and hitting him in the chest from the other side, and so it's a different armor. If you look at these two guys, they appear to both have the same pants on, and so you should have about the same damage numbers to the pants. They have nothing on top and armor on top on the other one. So you can see kind of the same damage down low and, you know, a much bigger number up top where the one guy has no chest armor. That 95, I suspect, did not hit the legs, but actually hit the chest. So what's going on here? The only two theories I have are that, one, you're weaker from one side to the other, but since I hit 95 on one side, on the weak side, I don't think that's true. The only other theory is that the pants has a much different damage calculation than the chest, because, I mean, there's no way cloth pants have more damage reduction than a metal chest, so they must just have a much different calculation or percentage or damage reduction or whatever, and so certain swings are going to hit the pants for a much reduced number. So I'll switch back to the mace. I'm going to look at a couple things. I hit this guy with a lower helmet for 116, and this guy has a slightly better helmet for 88 and then 82. So you can see there's a big difference from helmets, and they're both tier 1 helmets. I swung and missed right there because this is a much shorter weapon, so you have to get a lot closer. So I'm hitting a lot harder on one side. That was 118, and then hitting on this side is only 94. And it doesn't appear, 122 on that side, it doesn't appear to hit in the pants. It doesn't have that uptick that the sword did. And you can see it's listed at 80, so I'm doing a lot more damage, but it doesn't have that same uptick swing that the sword did. It doesn't look like it's hitting him in the pants, but that's the only working theory I have. Maybe it's just slightly hitting him in the waist, and it's a different damage calculation. But I don't know. Hopefully this was an interesting topic. It's kind of hard, and a lot of this is just ballpark because I have no numbers, and you know, I can't see their armor. I don't know what armor they have on necessarily, and I'm guessing in a lot of this. But in general, this should at least trend to being good information, I hope, and hopefully it's useful to you. Take care.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.